Hello, Tiffany. How are you doing? Nice to speak to you.
Hello. I'm good. I'm so happy to chat with you. I want to talk to you about where you are in England. I studied abroad and lived there for a minute, and it's
Um,
my favorite
I'm,
places.
I'm actually nowhere in England. I am originally from England, but I'm from Yorkshire, West Yorkshire. But
Okay, okay.
I've been living in Bilbao in the north of Spain for the last 20 odd years. Yeah, so yeah, yeah, nowhere
So
in
lucky.
England.
So lucky. I
Yeah,
mean, I've been to Spain once. I would like to go back again. I would like at some point I want to live outside of the States.
yeah, you do, yeah.
Yeah.
But not full time, I imagine. Not if you've got this blooming artist actress career coming
I
on, no?
mean, listen, the goal is that I'll be sent there for a project, whether it's South Africa or New Zealand or London to work. So then you're there for an extended period of time, but it is for probably a film or a series or something.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, congratulations on the movie. I was just watching it earlier today. Um,
Yeah.
And it's a twisty ride. It's really good. Before I actually talk about the film, I want to talk a little about you because I understand that you kind of did a little bit like what I'm doing right now. You were into kind of journalism and you hosted kind of things like that. How did you
Yeah.
fall into to acting afterwards, after doing that?
So I went to school for broadcast journalism. I went to Syracuse and I had always wanted to be an actor and I thought I was going to be a pop singer in a girl group. And then I was like, oh, I want to act. And my parents were like, you're going to college.
Right.
So in my mind, the thing that was closest to that was, oh, I can work on Entertainment Tonight or like or what ended up turning into Attack of the Show, which was a genre nerd kind of geek space. I grew up reading comic books and playing video games and loving sci-fi and genre. So I ended up moving back to LA. I was born in LA, but I moved back to LA to
Right.
work for G4 and started doing where I would visit sets and I was doing genre films and the bigger films where I hosted the first Avengers premiere. And I think after a while, like I just kind of got to the point where I'd be on sets and I was like, I think I'm ready to be doing that thing. I think I'm ready
Right.
to be on the other side. So I started quietly like taking classes again, and I will admit it, I'm a perfectionist, so I didn't want to start auditioning until I felt really confident in my acting skills because there's so many people that sometimes you see actors that are like I can host and you're like it's a different skill set. Like so going from a
Completely.
host
Yeah.
to acting does not necessarily perfectly transition either.
Sure.
Um, so I started taking classes, and once I felt really confident, I started auditioning. And I think, no one's journey is the same in this industry because there is no like, you do this, then you do this, then you do this. So for me, what was really cool is the fact that I met so many people hosting and had such good relationships with some of the studios and producers and directors. So once I was auditioning, I mean, there's times where it's like I get to text message the director and be like, "Hey, I just auditioned for your project," because I'd
Mhm.
interviewed them. So
Right.
that I think made it really cool. And I think for me, what I love so much is when I audition for something and I book it, and then someone messages me, and is like, "Oh my God, I saw your tape," or because I remember when I did Masters of the Universe, I'd hosted stuff with Kevin Smith before,
Right.
and on that particular job, I was like, I don't want to reach out to him. I want to book this on my own. Like, and so once I booked it, I remember him talking to me and just being like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that Mattel picked you. Like, they picked you and then they came to me
Nothing
and
to
I
do
was
with
like,
you.
yeah. And he was like, when they brought your name up, I was like, yes. So those moments are really special for me when I feel like I've fully, completely earned it just off of my acting abilities, which is really, really
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, that alone must have really helped boost your confidence. But I mean, bringing that to this film to In Flights. I mean, a lot of the time, I mean, pretty much the whole film revolves around your character, so that requires a whole lot of self-confidence. So just from going to hosting things and interviewing actors and things like that, what would you say was the biggest lesson that you learned that kind of helped you boost that confidence before being able to interact with kind of like directors and people after the fact? What kind of helped you to get into that place where you could say, right, I'm going to audition for this and I can do a film like In Flight and be in the frame 99% of the film?
Now you're stressing me out that you're saying
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry.
Kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. I think that, something that I've always done is that every job I go on to, I try and act like it's my first time doing it. Um, in the best way, because I think, every single person that's on a set is there to do the best at their job. And I can't do all of those jobs. And everyone does it just a little bit differently. So I remember the first job that I booked that I was number one on the call sheet was Harry and Meghan becoming royal. And I remember the first day on set, we were shooting stuff in the car, and I looked over at the DP and I go, this is my first time being number one. So like, tell me anything that I can do to help make this go better for all of us. And I think kind of having that mentality makes everything go that much smoother because everybody knew that I was open to them sharing with me and helping me and us all working together. And I think that that's probably the biggest advice that I would ever give anybody, where it's like, if you are wanting to be in that role at number, where you have the most lines and you are on camera for a very long time, is just remembering that it takes every single person on that set to get you there. Like I said, I went to school for broadcast journalism, and our last semester of our senior year, we had to do every position on a newscast. So I had to produce, I had to set up the interviews, I had to edit. And I was like, I do not like editing. I'm not good at it. I can definitely talk to people. I can set up interviews. I can do the interviews. This is where my strengths are. They're maybe not over here so much.
Right.
So I just know how much everyone's job means and how important everyone else's job is. And for me, it's something where, every job that I get, I feel like it's such a gift because I don't know if I'm going to get to do it again. I don't know if I'm going to do the next thing. It's not, none of these roles are guaranteed, no film, no project. And so every time I'm on set, I just try and remember this is the first time doing it. I don't like thinking too much about like, could this be the last time? But I just want to be super present and enjoy it the whole time. Because, when it comes down to it, I'm getting to play. I'm getting to do what I did as a kid. And it's a career. And yes, there are hardships to it for sure. But there's also some really huge wins and it should be fun.
Brilliant, brilliant. So listen, I mean, talking about the film, not only are you in on camera pretty much the whole time, but most of the time you were in this. I mean, I imagine it was. I've seen a few photos. I imagine it was on a sound stage most of the time. Now in this claustrophobic space. That I mean,
Yeah.
that even for the most veteran actor must be really difficult. I mean, obviously it'll help to inform the character for sure, the performance, but that must be really kind of overwhelming in a way because all of these actors crammed into this tin of sardines, and the
Yeah.
cameras and everything else that we don't realize. So that must have been really quite overwhelming, both before and during, and then I suppose afterwards is kind of right. Let's get outside and get some fresh air finally, no?
Yeah. I mean, what was interesting with this one for me was I'd actually shot a short film on this set before. So I had
Right.
experience being on this actual plane set. So it's an actual plane. Aero Mockups has planes that they use. They're one of the places that if you see an airplane on a TV show that shoots in LA, they're probably
Brilliant.
the
That's the
guys that
one.
brought them the
Yeah.
plane. Yeah. But so I'd been on the set before, and so it kind of felt like I felt lucky. Like it kind of felt like coming home to do this movie where I was like, oh, I kind of like have my footing here already. I've experienced
Uh-huh.
shooting here. And like you said, I think it does definitely inform the acting. It makes it so much easier when you're on a set that is real and legitimate and like I didn't have to pretend, oh, this is how small the aisles are. The one thing that I will say was funny was we started shooting, and I remember like within the first couple days, maybe it was the first or second day, they were like, don't forget to like do a little of this when you're on the plane. Like you're
That
on
was
a
one of my
plane.
questions. Yeah, that was one of my questions because I imagine that doesn't move because there's one scene where you with a drink, and I imagine that was all you. Everything was on
Yeah.
purpose, no, all kind of meticulously
Yeah.
choreographed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to remember those things and be like, okay, now we're 3 days in and I'm thinking about the acting, I'm thinking about this, but then it's also don't forget that you're on an airplane. So those things were really interesting and fun to play with, and a unique challenge that I hadn't had to do too much of because on the other project where I was in the plane, I was a co-pilot, so I wasn't having to like walk around and
Have
do
to move
things.
around. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I definitely think, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but for
Yeah.
this role and this film in particular, the claustrophobia vibe of it and feeling like I was stuck and alone at the same time really helped me as an actor in this role because Claire is alone. She's trying to figure it all out and she doesn't know who to trust, and she
Yeah.
doesn't even know how she got there.
Uh-huh.
So being in that space was great. And then as an actor, what was really fun, yes, it was hot because you couldn't have AC going when we're doing the shots, but it was great because when the actors were there, we weren't like leaving and not spending time together. So when we were in between shots, we were on the plane hanging out and chatting with each other. And I think the hardest part for me was that I developed some really good friendships with people where I was like, now I have to be scared of you. like, um, so kind
That's what
of
I was going to say.
transition.
Because I mean, usually when I mean, especially me personally, when I go on a plane, I kind of look down. I don't want anyone to speak to me. I mean, especially if I'm on my own, which I imagine most people are the same when they put the sunglasses on or
Yeah.
something. But here it's kind of like you people want to they want to start some small talk with you, and you've got a
Yeah.
small talk with those people.
Yeah.
That must have been quite difficult because you said you made good friends with these guys. So to make
Yeah.
it come across, um, like you said, after having just like talked about what you did last night, or I don't know, whatever you were doing the day before, and then to suddenly kind of start this small talk, it's on the outside or whatever. It must have been quite complicated, no?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you see different actors who work differently. I remember seeing edits or behind the scenes stuff from Sicario and seeing Emily Blunt on set, and that they would shoot something that was super heavy, and then right in between takes they were laughing and joking around, and then when they were filming they would go back to it. And I know that that doesn't work for every actor,
Sure.
and there are certain scenes where not necessarily, like, you can't really drop in and out that much. But I do think there's something to be said where if everyone is having a good experience on set and bonded, it comes across on camera. Whether you're acting like people who don't get along, there is still some chemistry built there that I think makes it that much better. And so for me, it's always been, I feel lucky that I get to meet such interesting people on every project that I'm on. And so I love the fact that I get to spend time and talk to people and get to know them. It's probably the host in me that loves meeting people.
Sure.
I moved a lot growing up. And so I kind of have that feeling of anywhere I go, I'm going to have something in common with someone. So why not chat with them and get to know them? Because I just love learning about people. So I love that aspect of it. There was one scene in particular where I did have to tell them, I was like, I'm going to walk off set every time we do this because I can't chat with you guys in between. But after this scene, we'll be good. So whenever there's stuff like that, I really do I try to know myself well enough as an actor that I can let people know to kind of say, like, okay, I'm probably going to be a little more distant for the next like couple of scenes, just a heads up. So if you come up to me and I'm a little like less chatty, just know that that's what it's for. Because I think then it kind of lets everyone know. And if you're an actor, you get it. You're like, there's certain times where you're going to need to be that way, and that's okay.
Uh-huh. I mean, speaking of that, the director Bo, she's also an actress. I
Mhm.
imagine that helps, especially in kind of like the shorthand between you and Bo, no? Because the fact that she's been behind and in front of the camera. What kind of shorthand did you create? And was she very open to kind of like letting you bring ideas because she's been on that side of the camera as well?
Yeah, I mean, what was so cool, Bo and I shot a short together. That's how we met. And
Right,
then
yeah.
she called me and asked me to have coffee with her. She wanted to talk to me about a project. It was her first feature she was going to direct. Did not tell me that it was her thinking of me playing the lead. But when we sat down, she was like, okay, so I'm thinking about you for the lead. How do you feel? Do you want to read this and let me know?
So,
So
so you
what?
were handpicked for the role, and so she kind of
Yeah.
she had your
Yeah.
mind. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Um, and so something that's so cool that you don't always have time for on certain projects is that we did have some lead time. We had that coffee, and then I could read the script, and then she and I and the writers could chat and be like, "Hey, like, what about this? Or could we tweak this here? Or I feel like maybe if she's this way, we could do a little bit here." And everyone was so open, and you're not always that fortunate to have that time before. Because something just for me that I've learned is I like to do all of that before we're on set, because when we're on set, there's so many other things going on
Sure.
that, you know, there are going to be times where you have to have those conversations with the director on set. But if I can get those out of the way before we're even shooting, that's even better for everyone because they're going to be pulled in 75 different directions. And as am I when I'm on set. Um, so we were really lucky to have time before we started filming to talk about Claire as a character and talk about some of the stuff we were shooting and how we were going to shoot it, which I think helped a ton. And something that I think is so incredible about Bo is, as an actor, you really have to trust your director. And that's why I think you see so many actors and directors continuing to work together over and over because they do have a shorthand. They
Yeah.
know how they are on set. And she's probably one of the most even keeled people I've ever met in my life. Where it's like there could be a huge disaster going on over here, but she's just like, what do you need? Like, you would have no idea that anything was going on. And there were certain days where she like I had talked to her and she was like, "Oh yeah, today was crazy," and I was like, "What?" Because I didn't feel any of that from her.
Right.
Um, but it was like when she's talking to you, she's talking to you, which I think is a great quality for a director to have. And so I felt really lucky to get to work with her. And I honestly can't believe that it was her first feature
Yeah,
directing.
oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, to
Yeah.
manage to be stay so calm as a director, I can't even imagine. So listen, they're pulling me out of here. So just before I go, I was looking at IMDb. That's never 100% trustworthy, but I understand that you are in a some kind of genre anthology type thing that you've acted in and you've also co-written. Is that right? Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah. The short film that I shot at the airplane set, the
Kind of
writer
segment,
director, yes, the writer
right?
director of that project, he and I were chatting, and the character that I played in that, she was supposed to die in that short, but she didn't. So he and I were chatting, and we're like, maybe we could do something else with this character. And
Right.
so we came up with this idea of it's a feature, but it's 8 different chapters, we say, of an anthology, kind of like
Right.
we think of it like, Black Mirror season, but it's a feature, or Twilight Zone season as a feature. And so we got a bunch of our writer friends that we love and are incredibly talented. It's, Derek Hughes and Ben Rabb, who were the EPs on Quantum Leap. We have Oba Mohammed, who wrote on Avatar: The Last Airbender. We have Latoya Morgan, who she created the new series with Duster with J.J. Abrams. She's directing one of them. So they all wrote them, and then we started going out to actors. So we've got Rosario Dawson on board, and Ernie Hudson, and Phil
Yeah,
Lamar,
that's
and
fantastic.
Raul
Yeah, yeah.
Coley. So it's I play the lead character that ties everything through, and it's she has after the accident, her memory only kind of resets, and she can only hold memories for like 10 minutes. So this character sits down with people and they confess secrets to her, and then she forgets them. So it's like the deepest, darkest secrets that people want to share. And so again, what I feel really lucky about is that I'm getting to do intense scenes with each of these actors. So yeah, we did a Kickstarter. We've pretty much raised all of our we did the Kickstarter. We got the money from that, and now we've pretty much raised everything. And I think we're going to start filming in probably December, January.
Oh,
But yeah, it's very cool because on this project I'm the lead in it, story by created with Mark Bernardin, and producing, which is a huge learning process for me, but I'm loving every second of it.
I can imagine. Well, that's fantastic news. Listen, they're pulling me out. So congratulations on In Flight, and I wish you huge success with this project we just talked about now, and hopefully I
Thank
get to chat to you about that one sometime soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All
Well,
right,
I would
really
love
nice to speak to you. All right, take care
to.
of yourself, Tiffany.
Bye.
Bye.
You okay? You've had quite the flight.
You have no idea.